No sé, no me gusta mi tema, teacher.
¿Mande? ¿No te
Ay,
gusta qué?
Mi tema de la tesis.
¿Por qué? Vamos a ver.
Y
¿Qué?
luego todo lo que hice estaba mal, creo.
Si recibiste mi feedback. Mira, la idea con primero, no te preocupes de todo los comentarios. Estoy checando todo. Como gramática, así, feedback, así de todo. Y estoy viendo como si fue el señoral hasta el final. Porque yo quiero que ustedes saben más o menos qué expectativa debería tener. Pero tenemos mucho tiempo para corregirlo. Entonces, tranquilamente vamos a verlo, cambiarlo. Yo no veo un gran problema por ahí. Yo estoy así viendo, dando feedback. Desde ahí podemos practicar. Tienes hasta el 23 de mayo para corregirlo. Entonces no hay ningún problema. Si tienes dudas, podemos practicar sobre tu lit review. Aquí puede ser en las sesiones, los tutoring sessions. Si quieren programar tiempo afuera también, me dicen. No hay ningún problema. Lo que es muy importante que primero es que entiendas el feedback que estoy dando, haciendo los cambios, y para cualquier cosa, pues me preguntas. Puedes enviarme algo a través de Canvas. Podemos practicar, obviamente, face to face, presencial, ¿sí? Entonces tenemos mucho tiempo todavía para corregirlo. Entonces no te preocupes de todo eso. Así, mire, la manera que estoy haciendo la calificación es así. Estoy dando una calificación por cada producto. Cuando yo lo veo así en el 23 de mayo, tu producto final, con los cambios basado en mi feedback por cada uno, voy a evaluar otra vez tu primer draft. Obviamente, si están haciendo los cambios, pues vas a tener un producto mejor de lo que tenía en cada producto. Basado en esta calificación, voy a regresar modificando cada producto. Entonces, la calificación como la tienes ahorita no afecta en nada. Es como un punto para comenzar. Ya sabes dónde tienes que comenzar, ya así, ya desde ahí, ya con cada producto cambiando cada uno, basado en el feedback, pues ya va a modificar, mejorar cada calificación. Estoy haciendo para que de este first draft es el mejor lo que podemos tener, para que el 23 de mayo todavía voy a dar más feedback todavía. Voy a revisar todo, otra vez, todo, y voy a dar feedback otra vez. Y ese mismo documento voy a pasar a otros tutores porque ustedes van a hacer un mock presentation. Y con su primer draft también los otros tutores van a hacer sus comentarios. Entonces vas a recibir comentarios de mí también con otros tutores. Basado en todavía vas a tener poco tiempo para hacer todavía más los cambios. Pero lo que yo quiero es que cuando ya tienes el primer draft, que los cambios desde ahí va a ser así mínimo, que no va a ser una gran cosa. Es lo que yo quiero, que es mínimo. Si ellos van a decir algo, es lo mínimo. ¿Sí? Entonces, tenemos tiempo, no, vamos bien. ¿Sí? Entonces, ahorita estamos comenzando lo que es the data collection. Primero, ¿tienes algunas preguntas o si hay algo que quieres platicar sobre el lit review?
Es que bueno,
si quieres, voy a abrir el documento, lo que hice.
Sí.
Para... Ok. El introduction, no estoy evaluando mucho eso. Ahorita estoy enfocando en the thesis statement.
Sí, me falta quería agregar algunas cosas porque de hecho no está terminado.
Ok. Y creo que faltaban algunas palabras, ¿no?
Sí.
Ok, pero bueno. Lo que tienes aquí, create one... Ok. Si has visto esta página en Canvas, donde estoy explicando, déjeme abrirlo. De hecho, creo que incluí un link. In week 2, there's a page in Canvas called Developing an Argument. And I explain, there's a lot of videos, a lot of information here, but the whole purpose of this one page is to help you figure out how you want to organize your literature review. And think of all of your whole entire literature review as separate claims, as even the topic sentences as a claim. And how you organize this will depend on how you're going to organize your argument, your overall argument for your thesis. So take a look at this. And when we look at this, first of all, if we want our students, so we want to try to keep everything in the third person. Okay, that's for pretty much the entire document. The only exception, the literature review should all be in third person. You can, in the last paragraph, switch to the first person when you introduce your research questions. And in the method section, you may use the first person. But for the literature review, you're basically just talking about theory, and you want to keep everything in the third person. So when students to be proficient in the target language, we need to provide our students many opportunities. So in my comment here with the thesis statement would be try to state a claim more specifically in your thesis statement that has something to do with authentic videos, materials, and the English language classroom. I mean, if I look at your main topics, you have authentic video materials in the English classroom. You have practical techniques when using video. Up to now, those are the two subsections of your literature review. So think about the main sections of your literature review. What is your main argument? What are you suggesting at the end of the day when you write this entire argument, this entire literature review, which is an argument? What are you trying to suggest? Are you suggesting that certain techniques or materials using certain videos help English language learners? Okay. In one sentence, you want to articulate or to explain what your position is on the use of videos, materials in the English language classroom. Are you only focusing on speaking? Are you focusing on integrating skills also? So think about also including in your thesis statement what aspect of language that you're referring to. Think about, again, the videos, or if you're talking about certain types of videos, right? Because you may be talking about a lot of different types of videos, but at the end of the day, you're going to be saying this one type of video or this one type of technique is recommended in that one technique or that one type of video. That is what you're going to be researching. So everything has to be tied into actually what you're going to be researching in your own context later on, which is in fact what we're going to be talking about starting now as far as looking at the which instruments that you want to use. But think of it as a big persuasive essay. All right? We're not going to be using a lot of modal saying you must do this, you must do that. But you are organizing your thoughts in a way that you are saying you're comparing and contrasting different techniques, theories, materials based on what the experts say. Okay, so this is kind of what I would say with regard to your thesis statement is try to come up with one sentence where if you had one sentence to describe your literature review, how would you organize that sentence? And the way it is right now, it's a little bit general. And I think, again, you can mention more key terms that you've mentioned in the main sections. Okay? So that would be the thesis statement. Now, just certain things here. These are just small things. But each each topic sentence now, all right? So each topic sentence, let's look at this one section. In this one section, you're going to talk about authentic video materials in the classroom. So think about those main topics now that are going to make up this one section. What do you want to discuss in your authentic video materials in the English classroom? And what I recommend doing is on a separate document or a separate piece of paper, write out in this section. Right now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, all right. What we need to really work on is paragraph developments. And think about each paragraph as describing the what, where, when, how, with whom of one idea. You're describing one idea in each paragraph. If you have 1 or 2 sentences in a paragraph, you know that you have an underdeveloped paragraph, an underdeveloped idea. So when you look at each idea for each paragraph that falls under this title, authentic video materials, think about how you want to organize those ideas. Those ideas are claims. Now, in each sentence, what I recommend everyone doing is under each section on a separate document, write out your topic sentences only. Write out, and typically you're going to have, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs maybe in one heading, one section. So write out those 4 or 5 ideas, those topic sentences, and then look at how you're organizing. Are you organizing the simplest to the most difficult, the least important to the most important, the general to the specific, the theoretical to the practical? There has to be a logical order that you're presenting these ideas. But look at them and say, okay, maybe I should talk about this first and then talk about this. You might talk about the what, then the how, then the why. That might be another structure. It doesn't, the way that you order is going to depend on what you're talking about. But it should follow some logical pattern. So when you look at each of your body paragraphs are claims just like your thesis statement. But now these are one idea, one very clear idea. And the reason that this is a good exercise is because that topic sentence should be understandable, should be clear when you read it all by itself without reading the entire paragraph. You look at that, you read that one sentence, you say, okay, I know what I'm going to talk about here. The next sentence, is this a clear statement all by itself? Okay, I know what I'm going to talk about here, and so on. When you have those topic sentences for each paragraph, then you go and look at how you can develop the meal plan. I use the meal plan as an acronym. It stands for Main Idea, Evidence, Analyze, and Link, MEAL. And this is an acronym that helps, I think, develop a paragraph. When you look at all the different types of sentences that you can write in a paragraph, they fall under one of those 4. So the main idea is also called the topic sentence. That's the claim. That's the very first sentence of your paragraph, and that's going to start each paragraph. So always have that first sentence as your main idea. Then you're typically going to follow up with an evidence. Now the evidence is a detail, an example, and that is where you're going to include citations. That's where experts are coming in and saying, okay, this is true. This is a supporting evidence that directly links to the main idea. You're also going to have some sentences that are analyzed sentences. Analyzed sentences simply means you look at the evidence that you just presented and you compare and contrast that evidence. You explain or comment on that evidence in relation to the topic sentence. But you're talking very specifically about the language, but these are your own ideas, but you're comparing and contrasting the evidence. You can also compare and contrast what you're mentioning in that paragraph with something that you've already mentioned prior. Then the very last sentence of every paragraph is going to be a linking sentence. So you're going to link the current idea from the current paragraph, from the meal plan, from the main idea, to the main idea to the next paragraph. Now, as a general rule, I would try to have between 5 to 8 sentences in each body paragraph, more or less. But you can mix them up however you want. The first sentence will always be a main idea. Usually the second sentence is an evidence. Now from there it can be 2 evidence sentences and then an analyze sentence and then a link, or 2 evidence, 2 analyze and a link, or maybe 1 evidence and 2 analyze and a link. You have different ways of developing your paragraph, and there's not one way of doing it. But do try to have the very first sentence as the main idea, or the topic sentence, think of it in terms of a claim. And when I say claim, a claim is something that is either true or false. It's something that can be debatable. It's not something that, if you read that sentence and you think, well, no one would disagree with that, then it's probably not a claim. A claim also is not a question, which I don't think that was a problem in your case. It's a declarative sentence. Typically, not a negative sentence. It's usually it's a positive sentence. But yeah, so think about really working on developing your ideas and going back and looking at each topic sentence and make sure that each of those ideas in your topic sentences follow some sort of logical pattern. And I think that this is the main thing I would start with when you look back here and start developing each of these ideas. And I would take it, what I would do is copy and paste each of your headings, and you're probably going to have between 2 to 4 main subheadings. And when I say main subheadings, like this one here that I've selected, this is a level 2 heading, and you're probably going to have anywhere from 2 to 4. Any more than 4 could be a little bit too much, and you want at least 2. Okay. And depending on how many level 2 headings will determine how many individual paragraphs you have in each of those sections, obviously. But go back, choose, and look again at your main headings, and start with, and do kind of an outline. And again, with maybe another document, and create those main headings, level 2 headings, and then those topic sentences. Okay, and then from there you'll have the basic skeleton of the paper, and then from there you can develop each paragraph. But really work on that, and the writing will become easier. It will become easier once you have some sort of structure. That's what I'm trying to suggest here, is to give you a little bit of structure so that you know what you're developing in each paragraph. So you're not repeating yourself, or you're not jumping from one idea to the next, and that type of thing. Okay? Does that make sense? Are there any other specific questions you want to discuss?
Es que, no sé.
I don't see anything wrong with the topic. Go ahead.
Porque tengo muchas técnicas, pero no sé, como que cada autor tiene muchas muy diferentes.
Think about what you want. What do you want to research? What are your research questions? Let's look at your research questions. Do you have your research questions? Okay. Can you describe what do you want to research? You're mentioning video, and what else? What are you wanting to see?
How can video help students developing their listening skills?
All right, so listening skills, keywords. Listening skills, video, listening skills, maybe techniques, maybe materials. Okay, you need to decide, do you want to talk more about techniques or materials? Or do you want to talk a little bit about both of those and talk about certain types? Obviously, you're not going to be able to talk about all the techniques, all the types of videos. You have to be selective and figure out, first of all, what are the most common that you think that you might encounter. Because everything you talk about in the literature review, you're going to be looking for in some way or another in your research. So you're going to have to, at the end, in your literature review, make an argument for a certain type of video, or a certain type of method, or a certain type of technique that works right? That works according to the experts in a better way. Okay? And so then you want to then order your ideas. Let's say you talk about techniques. Maybe you talk about the most traditional techniques first to the more current or alternative or whatever word you want to use that are more current or more popular or whatever that are being used, and you structure your argument that way. That's one way if you're talking about a technique. If you're talking about materials, maybe you start with non-authentic first and then authentic. You start talking about first the textbooks and the traditional ways of using certain types of materials or videos. Maybe it's videos in the course books because they have videos. So you talk about course videos that are in non-authentic types of scenarios, and then you move into authentic. They really have nothing to do with teaching and learning. They're used in the real world for non-teaching purposes, but they could be incorporated in teaching. That's another way. And we're just talking about materials here. We're talking about video as a kind of material. Now, if you have some techniques that you also want to talk about with using video, then maybe you talk about materials first, then you lead into techniques with using those videos. And in the videos, you have to think about what you want to observe. Are you going to observe teachers that are going to be using videos in a certain way, and you have to ask yourself, what's the likelihood, how reasonable is it that a teacher can be using this video in a certain way? If you think that you can't find a teacher that's already using video in a way that you want for your research, then you're going to have to consider an intervention. That is, you working with a teacher or a couple of teachers saying, look, I want you to try these things. And the teacher's willing to do that. That's an option. But interventions can be complicated because obviously you need to find a teacher who's willing to do it. There's always a risk where the teacher doesn't do it the way you want them to do it, or that doesn't give you the information, and for whatever reason, that's a risk. But that's still an option. But you have to be thinking about these things when you're developing your literature review, because if you think, well, I could never use technology and videos, well, don't talk about it in your literature review, right? So that's kind of, even when you're developing your literature review, you still have to think about the context of your own research and what is feasible, what's possible, and obviously what are your interests and what is it that you want to research. But these are things that you need to decide in your literature review. If you're looking at authentic materials, okay, maybe you talk about that first, then you talk about techniques, or something else. Maybe it's interactional patterns, maybe working in groups or individuals. I mean, there's just a lot of different avenues, a lot of different ways that you can approach this, but all related to listening comprehension. You probably will have a section on listening comprehension. Maybe the first section is listening comprehension first. So listening comprehension, materials, techniques, for example. Or maybe it just depends on how much information you have in each and what you want to research. If you're not interested in researching techniques necessarily, just different videos or types, then you're going to be talking more about video types than techniques. See what I mean? But these are all decisions you need to make. You need to read as much as you can, look at all the literature, think about your own context, and determine and say, okay, these 3 sections or these 2 sections, these are the sections that I want to discuss. And then from there, develop each section accordingly. See? Questions?
Bueno, hace poco leí un trabajo donde, bueno, lo que hacían en ese era, tenían 2 grupos, era un grupo controlado y el otro. En uno era, ay, es que, ¿cómo le explico? Que no lo traigo, déjame ver si lo tengo aquí.
Okay.
bueno, por lo que decían de los tipos de video, me acordé de eso. Porque ellos usaban documentales. Entonces a un grupo lo instruían con ciertas like, listening strategies y al otro grupo no, nada más les ponían los audios y ya. Y al final hacían como un test, un examen, para ver si el grupo que tenía las estrategias.
Ok, ese suena como un estudio cuantitativo. Suena así como cuando me dices, hay un examen, hay dos grupos, uno de control y otro así. Ese suena como un estudio de cuantitativo. Mi recomendación es que hagas más un estudio de cualitativa. Igual puedes enfocar en algo así si te interesa, pero más por el lado de cualitativa, buscando cómo sienten los alumnos, qué hacen los maestros, cómo piensan los maestros sobre la misma idea. Documentaries, using documentaries in class, using certain techniques to use those, or to practice the listening comprehension. You can even compare two groups, but from a qualitative standpoint, not necessarily a pre-test and a post-test, but from finding the perspective and understanding how students feel, how teachers feel, and what are the teachers doing to practice listening comprehension between the two groups. That's a possibility. It could be two groups with the same teacher, or it could be two different teachers with two different groups. But you can use that information. You can use information from quantitative research, even though you still want to focus on perhaps qualitative, because I think most quantitative research studies for our purposes are going to be more focused on learning, and we really aren't going to have the time, I think, to spend on that type of research. So, those are the things you need to be looking for when you see research like that interests you. They say, "Oh, I want to find out more about that in my context, but from a qualitative perspective." Then take what you can use from that study. If they use a certain questionnaire that maybe you can adapt, use it. If they have certain research questions that sound like you can use or something that you want to pursue, use those same research questions or adopt those research questions. As long as you reference it in your research and you give attribution, you give credit, saying, okay, this instrument, it was adapted from Ellis 2000. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's what I would recommend doing. You don't really think of starting a research from zero. You want to try to base it on what someone else has already done, and in that way, you are just continuing the literature, right? In this case, you're adding to what they've already done. They found these results. You found these results, and maybe your results are the same as what they found. Maybe they're different. It doesn't matter, but that you are adding to the research base. Okay, so we can look at this research if you want. That's fine, but right now I need your research questions. And here's the thing, Pilar. I know that it's a hassle working in Google Drive and working in Canvas, and there's a lot of technology involved here. But I do this for a reason, and I've done this for a while. And what this allows us to do, you and me together, what this allows us to do is to work closely together. What I mean by that is when you upload information to Google Drive, whatever it is, at any point in the process, you can send me an email and ask me, say, I have my thesis statement, but I'm not sure about it. Can you look at it? Or the research questions. Because right now what happened, and I want to make this clear to you now, because I don't want us to work in the other sections the way we've worked so far. Okay? The way we've worked so far is this is pretty much the first time that I've seen this. And that's what I don't want to happen. And this is only for your benefit. This is to help you. I have certain papers that I have looked at over 10 times before I looked at the final draft. And that's what I would prefer. It's not bothering me one bit. In fact, I want you to send me, if every week you send me an email saying, look, I have another question. I have another question. That's what I expect. That's what I'm waiting for. Right? Because I can't help you if you don't give me something. Just give me something and I will try to help you. Okay? So don't try to work in isolation here. Just don't do that. Right? I mean, I'm here for a reason. I'm trying to help. Obviously, if you don't understand what I'm explaining, ask me. I'll try to explain it again. Right? But I want to be more involved in the writing in your research process. And I think that if we do this starting now to the rest of the semester, if we change the way we're working together, I can almost guarantee that we're going to get closer than if we continue working like in isolation. Okay, I don't want to look at something that and just give you a grade on something that you've done in the past. I want us to work and clean it up together, and then look at the product and say, okay, we're better off, and we will be better off at the end. Okay, we have plenty of time. All right, but let's change the way we're working, and I think we'll have a better outcome at the end. Okay. Now, this semester, we need. In fact, if you want to schedule another time, because I've got another session here, but we need to be talking about our research designs for our instruments. Can we meet later this week, or even later today, or another time? When can we meet?
On Friday, is it okay on Friday?
Let me see here. Let's see, Friday I have tutoring sessions from 10 until 1. So anytime before, I'm here from 7 in the morning till 10, and we can do it at anywhere from 1 to 3 on Friday.
Okay, I think I'll come at 1.
At 1 o'clock on Friday? This Friday. Okay, and for Friday, bring in whatever information you have and ideas about your instruments. The first question I'm going to ask you, though, are your research questions in your thesis. So also bring in some research questions. Obviously, continue updating the information in the literature review. And at any point, we can still talk about those. But I want our next tutoring session to really talk about the designs of the instruments, but having good research questions, because that's the key. Okay, so let's meet this Friday at 1 o'clock. We'll talk about the instrument designs, and we'll continue going forward, working a little bit closer together, keeping all the information uploaded in Google Drive. All right, and you ask me at any point, ask me more questions as we clean everything up. Okay. But we have plenty of time, so just start working, making the changes, and we'll get there.